Hey everyone, so in this video lecture we're going to go over expanding your synthesis essay, and we're going to talk about this final research essay that we are doing. You can see the weekly schedule here. So we're going to watch some videos by Tuesday night, Wednesday night, read our example essay by Tuesday night, and then you're going to post a discussion post on Thursday night. You're going to give some response feedback. We can go over that in a different video on Sunday night, and you're going to complete your rough draft on Sunday night. So let's go over this research rough draft. So if you go into assignments, you can see we have this new assignment due on July 14th, 11:59 p.m. It's called Major Assignment for Research Essay Rough Draft. When you're in student mode, you'll see a little link right here to download the document, and we're going to go over that document together real quick. So up here, I have the purpose and description. Basically, this is just explaining what we've been doing over the past 6 weeks. We've been working on all these assignments. Now we're going to put it all together into the final research paper. So your final paper is going to be 6 double-spaced pages. That's about 1,800 words. I care more about the word count than the page count. So if you're at 1,800 but it's only 5 pages, that's okay. If 1,800 for whatever reason is like 7 pages for you, that's fine. And remember, you're going to use at least 8 sources, and 5 of these sources must be scholarly sources. So as you get started, the number one thing I want to emphasize is I want you to use writing from your annotated bibliography and your synthesis essay in this rough draft. You should not be writing 6 completely new pages. You should be taking writing that you've already done this semester, revising it however I've said I want you to revise it. That might be like adding more textual evidence, introducing evidence better, and putting it into this paper. At most, you should be doing 3 new pages, right? Because you've already got your 3 pages from the synthesis essay. So here, I've written out how you might want to write a strong thesis, because if you look back at our synthesis essay, we didn't really have a thesis as such. So here, we've got our thesis laid out. We want to acknowledge other positions, so that's like although. We want our main claim, a specific reason that supports our main claim, and then a consequence that emerges from the problem. So basically, we're taking everything from the defining a problem section and turning it into a thesis statement. You can see an example here that's pretty good and useful. It says, although some claim that global warming is caused by agriculture, in reality, most greenhouse gases are produced by nationalized industries because these industries primarily use coal-based energy, which results in increased environmental damage compared to methane from livestock. So, some people say global warming is caused by ag, but our claim is that greenhouse gases are made by nationalized industries that use coal, and then our specific consequence is it caused more environmental damage than methane from livestock. So once we get our thesis, we divide our research paper, and we've already done this, right? We've already defined a problem, we've got our reasons, and we've got our solutions. So we had those 4 sections in the source synthesis. We're just kind of porting them over here and making revisions. So for each of the areas, I have given you a checklist. So I'm not going to read over the entire checklist, but the way this checklist works is as you're writing each of these sections, I want you to look and make sure that, hey, I've got an interesting hook. I've got a strong thesis. I've talked about all of the parts of the problem that I'm going to talk about in the body. I've explained why my problem's relevant. I've incorporated one of my sources. So as you're writing and reviewing, I want you to go back and actually check these things off. Make sure you're doing all of this in each of your sections. Then here we go to our specific requirements. We've got the MLA style, 1,800 words. We've got all 8 sources. We're drawing on the work we've already completed, right? We're not writing a whole new paper. We're not changing our topic. We're moving ahead and getting this done. You're going to submit this as a rough draft on July 14th, and you're going to submit the final draft on July 21st. So one more thing I want to go over, and I'll explain this in an announcement so everybody sees it even if you don't watch the video. But the way that grading in this works is you're going to get a grade on your rough draft, and you're going to get a lot of marginal comments and feedback. You might make a 70 on your rough draft, but you don't need to worry because whatever you make on the final draft replaces the rough draft grade. So you might make a 70 on your rough draft, you do all the revisions I suggest, and now you've got like a 92 on the final draft. That 92 is going to become your final grade and your rough draft grade. Again, I'll write that out a little bit later in the week, but that's kind of how it works. So now that we've gone over the assignment, let's look at some of the other things I want you to look at. So if you're like, hey, what does the research essay look like compared to the synthesis? I have provided in the week 7 schedule an example. So this is just a solid example of a research essay. This one probably doesn't do quite as much synthesis as it needs to, but does a great job of describing the sources, talking about all that kind of stuff, suggesting solutions, explaining the problem. But what you're probably a little more interested in is how do you expand your 3-page paper into a 6-page paper. So I'm going to go over that now. So you won't be able to see this essay. This is an essay I actually took from somebody in the class who wrote the synthesis paper. But you can see this person has almost exactly half of the essay done. So they've got about 900 words. We want 800. We've got 3 good pages here. So they're off to a great start. They've already got all of their sources in. But let's talk about what can you do to expand your essay in a pretty easy way. So most of yours look something like this, right? The 3 paragraphs, about 250 to 300 words, all the sources getting put in there. So the first thing that you might want to do when you're revising is write an actual introduction paragraph. So if you look at one of the big differences between the synthesis essay and the final research essay example, this one has a bit of an introductory paragraph where they incorporate a thesis, they kind of explain the problem. So the very first thing you should do when you're expanding your synthesis essay, even beyond the feedback that I give you on the synthesis essay, is you want to come in here and you want to actually write an introduction paragraph. And if you go back to the research assignment, I've given you exactly what you should be doing in that introduction, which is introducing this thesis that we've written. So that's step 1. That's going to be about 150 to 200 words for you, adding on right from the beginning. So as we move into our actual body paragraphs, what you want to do, and what I've noticed a lot of times happening, is you guys often end your body paragraphs with a quote here. So the important thing when we're writing the research essay and to expand it out from a synthesis to an actual research is we actually need to analyze and explain the evidence in a little bit more detail. So what that would mean here is if we look at this little section, it says the findings in this passage closely relate to the other article. In this article, researchers study how different intensity of historical nostalgia affected the consumer's minds and attention. Specifically, they found that attitudes toward the advert and purchase intentions continue to significantly improve at each increasing level of historical and outlet nostalgia. So when you're writing a research essay, you never want to end with a quote on its own. You always want to provide at least 2 sentences where you explain the importance of all of the evidence that you've put together. So in this paragraph, the authors define nostalgia and explained how nostalgia can be useful for managers. So what they need to do here to expand their essay, add another 100 or so words to the paragraph. There are 2 things. So the first thing that you can do is you can explain the evidence in a little more detail. So here, that would be explaining how much did purchase intentions actually improve. So it might be 20%, 25%. You explain that, and then you explain about why is that important. Why is this evidence important for solving your research problem? And then the second thing that you can do, and here you don't necessarily need to cite other sources. You've done the research, you know about what's going on. Here you can provide hypothetical examples to prove the abstract theories that you talk about. So here you would say, what is an actual example of when historical nostalgia positively impacted purchasing? And you can actually see a good example of that up here if you want to look really quickly. They say, for example, someone dressing up in their parents' or grandparents' clothing and feeling reminiscent through the lens of their elder. So they give an actual example of what historical nostalgia is. It's not something that they've personally experienced, but it's something that they're getting through the media. It would be like now, cycles of fashion, right? I teach high schoolers in the summer, and they dress now like people kind of dressed in 2002. So it's interesting to see it come back over and over again. So that would be the second way. So as a reminder, first way, we add introduction and strong thesis. Our second way is we expand our paragraphs, and I'm going to give you guys individualized feedback on how to do that. And then our third way is we write a specific conclusion, and in our specific conclusion, we want to say that explains what people should do based on our research and why our claims are the best solution to this problem. So we're expanding it out. We're dealing with a little bit more. And the final thing that I'll say is if you find yourself like really struggling to expand, it's okay if this rough draft isn't the full 1,800 words. Once I see the rough draft, I can give you more feedback about where you need to expand it. But one good strategy is just adding more textual evidence. You can never go wrong by adding more textual evidence to one of the sources, one of the paragraphs that you're writing. Anytime in academic writing, adding sources is a great way to add links. So I don't think this will be too difficult for you, but if you guys have those issues, let me know and be on the lookout for my individual feedback on the synthesis essay. You'll probably get that around Wednesday. So if you have any questions, just send me an email through GeorgiaView or Outlook.